VindiGPT.com.
Welcome back, investors. Welcome to a new video on our YouTube channel. So this time, and that was a specific request from one of our YouTube users, so thank you for having submitted that request, we're going to be looking at the Porsche shareholder structure. Because in fact, when you want to invest into Porsche, it's sometimes a little bit complicated when you do not know how Porsche is structured from a shareholder perspective, or actually from a share perspective, which company you have to invest into. So this is what I'm going to be explaining, and hopefully it will be useful for you if you're looking into Porsche as a potential investment opportunity. So as always in the introduction, so this time I have to disclaim that our family holding, we are shareholders of Porsche AG, so the ticker P911, which is one of the 3 companies actually that you can become shareholder of Porsche, and of course I will explain all of that. Also, one thing for the people who do not know what AG means, it's something very similar, or the closest match in English of this suffix would be public limited company, PLC, or corporation like Corp in the US. And as always, of course, investing into public equity markets always carries a certain amount of risk, so you should do your homework as always. Right, and yeah, as always, of course, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for everybody who has subscribed in the meantime. We are growing fast, our amount of subscribers. And of course, do not forget to hit the notification bell so that you get informed when we publish a new video. And as this YouTube user did it, feel free to submit proposals for either company analysis, or for example, in this case, shareholder structure analysis, or anything that you think would make sense that we analyze for you guys. Right, so let's start with the shareholder structure of Porsche SE, which is basically Porsche Automobil holding company, and that's one of the 3 companies that we're going to be analyzing from a shareholder structure perspective. So first things first, I mean, I don't know if you know, I would expect that you know, but Porsche, the name Porsche is coming from Ferdinand Porsche, who has been, in fact, the entrepreneur who created what we know today as the Porsche cars, in fact. And the Porsche family, also known actually as the Porsche Piëch family, is a very famous family of entrepreneurs and business people, businessmen and businesswomen, mostly of Austrian and German nationality. And in fact, they own the Porsche Automobil holding company, which is known as Porsche SE. So it's in fact a family investment holding company. And when you look on the right hand side on the supervisory boards, I just put a couple of names here, you see in fact that the chairman of the supervisory board is Dr. Wolfgang Porsche, who's part of the Porsche family. He's also the chairman of Porsche AG, which is the company that produces the Porsche cars. And you have, as deputy chairman of the supervisory board, you have Hans-Michael Piëch from the Piëch family. So again, a Porsche Piëch family member, who is also a member of the supervisory board of Volkswagen AG. And when you look on the investor relations website of Porsche Automobil Holding SE, so the family investment holding company, you see also other family members that are part of the supervisory board, like Sophie Piëch, Ferdinand Oliver Porsche, and Peter Daniel Porsche as well. So you clearly see that the Porsche Piëch family has the control of the family holding. Right, so that's the first thing. So when you read a little bit on the investor relations website of Porsche SE, I will call them now Porsche SE, but their official term is Porsche Automobil Holding SE. So as I already said, it's a holding company with specific investment into mobility and industrial technology. So the company, in fact, is a very small holding company with less than 50 employees as of December 2023. This is information that we have. You see the group results that they generated a profit of 5.1 billion euros. And they have 2 core investments. You're going to see that they have also portfolio investments in the upcoming slides. But they do have 2 core investments, which are, in fact, Porsche SE being a majority shareholder of Volkswagen AG, so Volkswagen being this car manufacturer. It's in fact the largest the largest car manufacturer in the world. And they also have a direct control of a Porsche AG, so that's the Porsche car manufacturer company who produces, amongst others, the Porsche 911, the Macan, Cayman, Cayenne, etc. So there they own a 25% plus 1 share of the ordinary shares of Porsche AG. How do I know that? As always, and this is what I of course teach also in the training, the art of value investing, but also in the art of reading financial statements. I mean, is just read the financial reports. The financial reports are giving every explanation that you need, but just you have to train your eye on reading those reports. And this is an extract from the Porsche SE, so from the holding, the family holding company, where you see in fact that in the entities that are consolidated, you see in fact that they have this 31.9% shareholdership of Volkswagen AG, and they have 12.5 direct share ownership into what is the official name of the company, Dr. Engineer HCF Porsche Aktiengesellschaft from Stuttgart. What is important as well, and the detail, the devil is always in the detail, you see that there are two footnotes, the footnote 2 and the footnote 3 that I have actually also extracted, that you can see below the first graph, where in fact, and I'm going to be explaining this in the upcoming minutes, Volkswagen AG has in fact two types of shares, similar to BMW. So they have ordinary shares and they have preference or preferred shares, which is basically the same. So what is important to know is that preferred shares for Volkswagen AG, they do not provide voting rights. So when the Porsche SE family or the Porsche SE holding company mentions that they own 31.9% of the equity, it's in fact a mix between ordinary and preferred shares, but they do own 53.3% of the ordinary shares, so not of the preferred shares, and the ordinary shares are giving them voting rights. So to be very straightforward, Porsche SE, so the family holding of the Porsche Piëch family, owns more than half of the voting rights of Volkswagen AG, the largest car manufacturer in the world. And then you look at the footnote number 3, which is linked to Porsche AG. So that's the car manufacturer that only produces Porsche branded cars. So there, in fact, you see that they own, so the Porsche Automobil Holding SE, so the family holding, owns 12.5% of the capital of all the equity of the company. But the footnote says that they own 25% plus 1 share of the voting rights of the company. So probably, and of course I will reveal this, but probably it means that also Porsche AG has two types of shares, ordinary shares and preferred shares, but we're going to be seeing this. So if we kind of structure this in an org chart or a shareholder structure of between the three companies that you have understood, there are three companies. You have Porsche SE, you have Volkswagen, and you have Porsche AG below. So you see that Porsche Automobil Holding SE, so the family holding, which is at the very top of the chart on the right hand side, they own 25% plus 1 share of the ordinary shares, that's the voting rights, which makes up 12.5% of all the shares, and they own 53.3% of the ordinary shares of Volkswagen AG, which are the shares that give them voting rights. So they actually have the majority and they take strategic decisions for Volkswagen AG. And this is a rough cut 31.9% of all outstanding shares, preferred and ordinary shares. What the Porsche family holding or investment holding has as well in terms of investments, so they have two core investments, as they call them, two core investments, which is Porsche AG and Volkswagen AG, but they hold a certain amount of other companies in their portfolio. They did not disclose how much the percentage would be, and also I did not take the time to look in the financial report if they provide that information. But what is interesting is that they describe a little bit on their website. I've put you the source of the website from the Porsche SE, so the family holding company. So they describe in fact that outside of the two core investments into Volkswagen AG and Porsche AG, they have a certain amount of what they call portfolio investments. I do know, for example, ABB. I think I'm not sure if that's a Swiss company. I think it's something like an industrial conglomerate. And you have INRIX. I remember INRIX is a data mobility company from the US. The other companies I do not know, to be very fair. So, and they describe their investment strategy as they're investing into companies that have a high growth and value appreciation potential during the holding period. So they hold those companies according to what they describe, on a temporary basis. And they focus, in fact, on mobility and industrial technology. So, and focusing on companies where the growth would come actually through current macro, let's say global or macroeconomic trends, for example, electromobility, for example, amongst others. So that's for Porsche Automobil Holding SE. So the short version is Porsche SE. So that's the holding company that is owned by the Porsche Piëch family. So now let's go at one of their subsidiaries, which is Volkswagen AG. You remember they own 53.3% of the ordinary shares and they own 31.9% of all subscribed capital. So what is interesting, and this is again confirmed, I've put you the sources below as well from the Volkswagen Investor Relation website documents, is that indeed you see, in fact, at least for 2023, the 2024 annual report is not out yet. You see, in fact, that the amount of ordinary shares is a little bit higher than the amount of preferred shares. And you already said, I mean, Porsche SE, so the family has, in fact, majority and has the voting power on the Volkswagen AG. So what they describe as well, this is one, I think it was a investor day conference presentation in November 2024, if I remember well, where you see a little bit how is the shareholder structure let's say, split it between big institutional investors. So you see here again, this, I mean, they have rounded it at 32%. It's officially 31.9% of all shares are owned by the Porsche Automobil Holding SE. So that's the Porsche SE family investment holding company. So they own, in fact, 1/3 of all the shares, but on ordinary shares, which are the shares where there is voting power, so there, in fact, they own more than half, the family, so the Porsche Piëch family. And you see, for example, you have the Qatar Holding LLC, you have the state of Lower Saxony, so that's one of the German regions, so Niedersachsen, that is also in there. So, I mean, they do have a couple of institutional investors as well. Just for those who maybe would not know what is in the Volkswagen AG portfolio, so you see, I mean, I mentioned already a couple of times that Volkswagen is currently the largest car manufacturer in the world. You see for the 2023 figures that they have, in fact, produced and manufactured around 9 million cars, and you see that rough cut half is coming from Volkswagen passenger cars. But they do own as well other brands like Skoda, Seat. They do have Volkswagen commercial vehicles. They own Audi as well, Lamborghini. This is a high-end luxury brand. They do also own Bentley, that you probably know, and Porsche as well. And you see that Porsche, at least for the end of the fiscal year 2023, Porsche had manufactured 320,000 rough cut vehicles. So you see like the proportion of Porsche versus the total amount of cars manufactured by the Volkswagen AG a company, in fact. And I mean, just to show you a couple of those, let's say the most recent cars that are being launched as we speak, or that will launch in 2025. So you see the, I mean, those new type of cars. They do have, for example, the ID Unix. That's a car made in China for the Chinese market, but you probably know from Audi, the A6, the Q6, the Q5. From Bentley, you probably know the Continental. For Volkswagen, you probably know the Golf and the ID Bus, for example. And of course, for Porsche, I'm expecting that you know the Panamera, Taycan, and 911, amongst others. So of course, they do have a lot of models as well. So that's for Volkswagen AG. And you see, in fact, that in the reporting of Volkswagen AG, you do see also the reporting of the amount of cars manufactured by Porsche. And Porsche actually, since 2022, has been separated on the stock exchange. So on stock markets, you can, in fact, directly buy Porsche AG. It's a little bit what Stellantis has been thinking about. What's the Italian company name? Maserati. So Stellantis owns Maserati, and they're thinking of separating Maserati from the Stellantis shares, for example. So basically, Volkswagen did the same. They said, I mean, Porsche is so attractive as a luxury brand that maybe investors, they don't want to buy Volkswagen shares, but they would like actually only to buy Porsche car manufacturer shares. And this is what they did in 2022. What is pretty fun, in fact, is when they have created, so when they have listed Porsche as a separate company, which is a subsidiary of Volkswagen AG. And remember that Volkswagen AG is a subsidiary of Porsche, the family holding, so Porsche SE, is actually they have, let's say, subscribed 911 million shares, split it into half of those are unlisted ordinary shares. So those are the shares that have voting rights, but you cannot buy those shares on the stock market. And they have half of those 911 million shares. So you see the relationship with P911 or the Porsche 911 brand. They have, in fact, half of those 911 million shares are listed, so you can buy them, non-voting preferred or preference shares. Those are the shares that our family holding as well owns, in fact. That's the ticker P911, but I will come back. I will summarize the different tickers that are existing on the various markets. So, and yeah, I mean, as Porsche AG, so that's the last company in the cascade, so Porsche SE, Volkswagen AG and Porsche AG. So Porsche AG is mentioning that as far as they are aware, the unlisted ordinary shares are held indirectly by Volkswagen AG and Porsche SE. And what is interesting, what you see on the right hand side here, you see in fact that 75% of the shares of Porsche AG are owned by Volkswagen AG, so you clearly see that Volkswagen AG has the say on the company. And you see again this 12.5%, that's the dark, it's not the dark gray, it's the lighter gray, which is coming from, so that's the shareholdership coming from Porsche Automobil Holding SE, so that's the family holding of the Porsche Piëch family. So when I wrap all this together, so on the right hand side, this is actually how the percentages work. So you have Porsche family holding, which is the top parent, let's call it like this. They have a direct investment into Porsche AG, that's the one at the very bottom with 25% plus one share of the ordinary shares. So that's the voting power, and it's 12.5% of all shares, ordinary and preferred. And remember that for Porsche AG, only the preferred can be bought on the stock market, not the ordinary shares that have voting power. Then you have, at the same time, Porsche, so Automobil Holding SE, so Porsche SE, the family holding, who owns 53.3% of the ordinary shares, so the shares with the voting rights on Volkswagen AG, which represents 31.9% of all outstanding shares. Remember that Volkswagen has ordinary and preferred shares, and Volkswagen owns directly 75.4% of the ordinary shares of Porsche AG as well. So they have, of course, voting power. So you see how the family has structured those two core investments, and there is this cascade of Porsche SE also having a strong ownership in Porsche AG directly, but indirectly through Volkswagen AG as well. So in terms of tickers, because I think that's something that is important as well, and you're going to find those tickers as well in Vinci GPT. So you can buy Porsche Holding, so Automobil Holding SE, the top parents. The typical ticker that you will find is PAH003 or PAH3. So that stands for Porsche Automobil Holding Company. So that's a Porsche SE related ticker. And you can only buy preferred shares or preference shares, so you cannot have voting rights on the holding. And what is very interesting is this is a very similar structure. Some of you may remember that I have disclosed that our family holding owns Christian Dior International, and Christian Dior International is actually the family holding company who owns a big portion into LVMH. So we are not an LVMH direct, let's say, share owner, but we are actually owning Christian Dior International, which in cascade also owns LVMH amongst others, but not only. So this is very similar. So the family has structured it in a similar way to the family who owns LVMH. So Porsche Piëch family owns Porsche SE. You can buy into the company only preferred shares without voting rights with the ticker PAH003. Volkswagen, what is interesting, they do have two tickers very similar to BMW. Mercedes, for example, in Germany does not have that. But Volkswagen, you can buy, in fact, both preferred and common shares. So you see that the typical ticker that you're going to find is VOW for everything that is ordinary shares, and VOW3 for the non-voting preferred shares. And then Porsche, so this is where we so our family holding is a shareholder. We own in fact preferred shares through the ticker P911. So those are shares that do not carry voting rights, because Porsche AG has in fact two types of shares: ordinary shares with voting rights, which are unlisted, so you cannot buy them. You can only buy those unlisted shares in fact through I would say through private equity, and the ones that you can buy as public equity is only the P911 shares. Right, so this is a conclusion. So I'm just again summarizing here so that you see the cascade of ownership. So you see that in fact, so now it depends where you want to invest into. If you would be buying Porsche SE, you will be buying as well the investment portfolio of the Porsche Piëch family, and maybe you're not interested in those companies like Inrix, ABB Mobility, etc. That's your choice. If you only, and this is for example, that was our decision as a family, we only want to buy the luxury brand P911. We are not interested in Skoda, in Seat, in Bentley, and in Volkswagen cars. That's why we bought only the P911 shares, in fact. And for those who want to have actually I would say, if they like all those brands and they want to have a stronger, not just focus on a luxury niche automotive market, well then maybe Volkswagen with one of the two types of shares, preferred or ordinary shares, because you can buy both actually as public equity. That's maybe then the right investment option. And when I say the right investment option is, of course, do your homework, do the analysis with Vinci, look at the intrinsic value, look at the safety margins, so the typical things I'm explaining in the other value investing training, of course, as well. With that, thanks for your attention. Talk to you in a next video, and as always, do not hesitate to make comments and of course propose topics that you would like us to address. With that, thanks, and talk to you very soon.